my name is Ryan Naylor, and I am the founder of AvaHR. My job today is to talk to you all about hiring, and specifically how to grow your businesses by getting the right people into your organization. How many of you have struggled with the hiring process? Like, admittedly, it's tough, right? Not only is the market tough from a labor standpoint, but there's a generational difference and kind of communication standards, work ethic. There's a lot of things that are impacting the hiring specifically for small business America. You all agree with that? So I'm going to give you guys a backstory as we wait for a couple other people to kind of spill in. I'm going to give you guys a little backstory about who I am and kind of where I started in my journey, just to kind of set the table and give you guys some understanding. About 10 years ago, I was on this little show on ABC called Shark Tank. Have you guys heard of that show? Yeah, it's a pretty popular show. I was there on season 3, back when it wasn't as popular, and they were on the verge of getting cut by ABC. And I had an incredible experience of being humiliated by Mark Cuban. And I won't go into all the details, but I'll tell you a couple of things. Number one is you prepare for months to go on to Shark Tank. Every other day for probably 2 months. So we're talking at least 30 different times. I was on a video conference call with a junior level producer, and we would practice the presentation, practice the pitch. And it was known for 2 months, Ryan, you get 3 minutes of uninterrupted time. When you walk, you've seen all those guys walk out, right? They're on the magic red carpet, and all the sharks are staring at you, and you say, "Hello, sharks. My name is Ryan, and I'm here to talk." Right? You've seen that. You're told you get 3 uninterrupted minutes, and when I mean uninterrupted, they tell you 3 minutes is yours. I was exactly 17 seconds into my pitch when Mark Cuban said he was out. That kind of throws you a curveball. And I'd say it just kind of went down from there, but it's okay. The best thing, the one thing I tell everyone is reality TV is still just, it's TV, right? There's some things there that, it's for some shock factor and whatnot. They're going to do whatever they can. But after that day, I was there selling an e-commerce product. I went back to the hotel, and I sat in my room, and I'm like, what am I doing? That's going to be on national television. It's going to make me look like an idiot. I really didn't have that intention. But what am I doing? What do I care about? What am I passionate about? And I sat down on the hotel pad with the pen, and I wrote down all the things what I believe in. Who's Ryan? What do I believe in? And I started to circle core things and group them together. And I'll tell you, for me, what it came down to is that was a defining moment in my life, because I realized the thing I care about most in my life is the family unit. I became very passionate around understanding the family unit and then doing research on the implications of a family unit and what that looks like. The walls inside a home for children, when there's a specific family unit that's tied together, they've got alignment, there's goals. And then I started to research what is the number one thing that breaks the family unit. And I don't think it's any surprise, but financial duress is the number one thing that breaks down the family unit. And the biggest cause of financial duress is underemployment and unemployment. And I'm like, I'm going to do something about that. And I got super passionate about how can I help people get better jobs, higher quality jobs as quickly as they can. And I got super passionate into this. And I went and created a brand called localwork.com. I started working with government agencies. I'm based in Arizona. So based in Arizona, started working with the Department of Labor there. We started putting on job fairs and events and bringing in employers. And we were able to track in the next 3 years, from that dark moment from Shark Tank to 3 years later, we helped 100,000 people get new jobs. And I was able to learn a tremendous amount during that 36 months that I'm going to bring to this conversation today. Because if there's anything that I've learned during this process, is if you can help other people get what they want, as Zig Ziglar said, you're going to get back what you want. My passion was helping people, helping protect the family unit, and I feel like getting people the right work did that. But unfortunately, we as employers, I'm a small business owner myself, and I'm going to talk to you as mutuals here, as small business owners. Unfortunately, most of our hiring process tends to look like this side. Am I correct? Or reactive. Crap, Joe just quit. What are we going to do? Who's going to go clean those cars, right? Who's going to go do this job or this job? The job to be done is usually reactive instead of forward thinking. Can you guys all imagine what your life would look like if every day you showed up on a Monday morning to the office and you're like, we're going to build for the future. We're going to put a job out for potential for more A players, right? This is the paradigm shift in which I want to talk through today, is how do we go from reactive to forward thinking and planning and strategically hiring. Sound good? Feel free to throw questions at me, give me commentary. I love being able to talk on my feet and be interactive along the way. Just don't act like Mark Cuban and we'll be fine. No one's left in 17 seconds, so we're good. So one thing I want to talk about here is the challenges that you guys face. There's some publicly facing statistics that I found absolutely terrifying for your industry, specifically what you guys are dealing with. Right now, your average dealership has a 50% turnover in their staff every single year. Does that sound somewhat reasonable on this small little subset? About half your staff?
Some positions, yeah.
Some positions.
The lower end positions.
Lower end, entry-level roles, they tend to turn over a little faster than some of the others. Yeah. But labor-wise, across the organization, 50% turnover. That's yielding a wasted cost of over $400,000 a year per location. So if you're running multiple sites, you're generally losing about $440,000 per year in otherwise would be bottom line profitability. And a lot of that is due to lack of efficiency, the training upkeep, the lack of work that needs to get done, or maybe you're hiring low performers and now you got to hire 3 people to do the job of what one A player would have done by themselves. And we're seeing that complete more and more, is that we're getting these candidates that their capacity to do work went from here to here. So we're trying to fill the gap of still the work that needs to get done. Does that resonate? Any other issues? I'll just open it up. What else are you guys facing? What are you guys seeing from a labor market? Kind of the hustle mentality, maybe shortchanging a little bit. Everyone's wanting a little bit more income. They're wanting a 401k. They're wanting 90 days of PTO. They're wanting some equity in your business, yep. Right? I've heard it all, and it's true. You see those candidates coming in. These are real problems, and thank you for being open and transparent, because this is this is why we all fly into Colorado, right? Is to kind of work through and workshop these issues. It shouldn't just be a talking head telling you what you should do, but I'm going to tell you what you should do. So this was interesting. Some public-facing data. 65% of dealerships say their number one problem is the hiring problem. That if they had better people in their organization, their business would be growing. High turnover, low applicant volume, the candidate quality or qualified candidates are very, very low, especially for our mid-level management positions and above. And our time spent hiring means we're not selling. So I want to kind of talk about kind of the landscape, resonating with what you guys are actually talking about. These candidates are acting more like customers. They're now shopping you. They come in for an interview and they think it's, they're asking you the questions. What are you going to do for me as the candidate, right? And it's interesting how this generational shift is happening. Instead of them being hungry, yes, sir, I want that job. Yes, sir, I'll be here, 20 minutes early tomorrow. It's completely shifting. They want you to adapt their work schedule around their life's activities, right? As funny as for another thing I was preparing for, I was kind of for the 250-year anniversary of Declaration of Independence. I was kind of, for fun, I was reading through the Declaration of Independence last night, and I was thinking about today's presentation, and then, the opening paragraph talking about our, the framers of the Constitution are talking about we have rights. We have, unalienable rights such as life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, 10% 401k matching, 90 days PTO, right? They think that those are my rights. Part of just being here and having a pulse is there's rights that I should be entitled to, and it's hard.
They're not aware of the pursuit.
That's the verb they're missing, right? Is the pursuit of it. let's put ourselves in their mindset. Like we've established our mindset as the employer, some frustrations that we have. This is a survey that was done by Deloitte. They went and said, assuming basic compensation is met to meet your life expenses, what are the factors that are going to influence your decision the most and what you're looking for in your next job? Okay, so let's just talk through these. You guys can see them okay, hopefully. But the number one thing, well, actually what you see in all of these, in the top 10 here, is you don't see become a millionaire by the time I'm 30. You don't see a couple of things that are financially driven. Might come back to the comment from the back about this lack of like this ambitious side of things, right? It's kind of reflecting here. But what's interesting is work-life balance is the number one thing. Every industry is different on what that looks like. So we're going to talk through it in just a second. But the survey came back from Deloitte saying opportunities to become leaders or to progress within the organization, a path of something was the number one thing they were considering. And then flexibility. That's hard in your industry. But then the fourth thing I'm going to talk about is the sense and purpose behind the job. Let's go through little things. Real job posting, screenshotted it off of Indeed. Sorry if this is one of you guys, I don't think it is. So would you ask yourself, would you apply to this job? Why or why not? That's the whole job posting. This is a sponsored job posting.
I mean, that sounds just douchey.
Okay.
Like, not be lazy. I mean, that's something I would say to someone, like to a friend of mine or something, but not, here's a job post.
Yeah. You got to be good with people and talk a lot. Well, that's a good, requirement, but...
We have a lot of cars that end so fast.
Looks like every other...
Yeah, I'm going to show up in a Led Zeppelin t-shirt and go, I like cars and I can talk to people.
There you go.
It doesn't create an aspiration for the opportunity.
Does it align with this? Not at all, right? What we have found for this next generation of job seekers, what they care about is a lot of job postings say what you're going to do for me. What they should be saying is what we can accomplish together. There's a big dynamic shift in messaging. And if we're sponsoring and we're paying $50, $100 a day for our listing on Indeed, and we're frustrated at the end of the month, we got terrible candidates, and we need to go back to our very first touch point, our very first expectation, and what alignment we established, right? And we're going to talk about how to frame up your job posting to receive that. Are you guys familiar with OfferUp? It's not big in every market, but it's growing substantially, right? It's like the Facebook Marketplace, secondhand used items, sell things. They actually have a jobs tab. We became one of their preferred partners inside of their jobs feed. And so we were able to align with them and do some surveys on job seekers. And they were able to go out and actually survey and ping all of these job seekers using their platform, because we hear a lot from Small Business America, they don't want to work with us. I'm like, that's not true. Every statistical point that I'm seeing is they actually prefer Small Business America, and they validated it for us. They went and said, they got 10,000, that's better than your margin of error here. They got 10,000 respondents to say, actually, we prefer small local business over a national corporation. Guys, that's you. That's everyone at this conference, right? So how do we sell that? How do we sell the sizzle of small business, opportunity for growth, work-life balance? Because we need to speak to their language. Now, this is a common sales framework that I've applied towards hiring. And it's understanding these emotional drivers that candidates really care about. We're going to talk through each one of these because this should shape your hiring process when you go back to your organization. The first thing is we're going to talk about functional. Functional hiring is only about what you're going to do for me, the tasks, the responsibilities. This is what I would call 90% of all job postings only focus on this aspect. And the reality is millennials, zennials, whatever the next generation is, this does not motivate them. These are not motivational drivers, the tasks and responsibilities that we're going to be doing, right? We're going to get a little bit deeper into what they really care about, the social. So much of their motivation in life is how others are going to perceive me at my new job that I just got. Because chances are they're taking a selfie on their first day and they're putting it on Snapchat, they're putting it on Insta, they're TikToking it, whatever it is. They're worried about what their friends are going to perceive them when they just accepted a job offer from you. That's a bigger decision factor than actually what they're doing at your office. They care more about what other people think of them accepting the job than they actually care about what they're doing at the job. Does that not alarm anyone else? That's crazy to me. We're going to reverse engineer this in a second. And then the last thing is how do I feel? Right? This is such a big motivator. How do I feel when I go to work every day? Is going to determine if they show up the next day or the day after that. Or if they ghost you after accepting the job and then they don't. You guys have all had that, right? They accept the job offer and then they never show up the first day. Or they come to one day of training or one day and then they don't show up the next day. It's because they were listening to this third bucket. How did I feel? Does this frustrate anyone else? It's hard, right? This is the generational game that we have to play to attract the right talent. So I'm going to share with you just a quick experience that I had of someone who nailed this aspect. They nailed all three of these to get one of the most elite growth stories I've ever seen. The founder of this company, it's called Nextiva. They're based in Scottsdale, down the road from where I am. I met Yaniv, the founder of the company, back when they had 14 employees. And this is when I was doing localwork.com. I was doing the job board, I was growing it. And we got connected through some event. And he's like, why don't you come over to my office space and I want to show you what we're doing, see if you can help me get more people in the door. I was like, great, small business, I love this. I walked in and I came around the corner and there's a guy walking around with a video camera. And I said, Yaniv, who's this guy? What's he doing? Because it's not common to be at a professional workplace and some dude's walking around like, with like the shoulder strap and the balancing camera system. What is this? He goes, oh, that's my full-time videographer. I was like, you only have 14 people. Why do you have a full-time videographer? He goes, it's part of our hiring marketing. We've invested 10% of all of our revenue back into employment marketing. I'm like, I've never heard of that. Most companies don't put 10% into their sales marketing. He goes, oh, no, we're driven by getting A players only. So we started talking through this, and he became one of my favorite people to work with. Over the next 2 years, Yaniv grew his company from the 14 people in just 2 years to 700 people.
What did they do?
This is a voice over IP phone company that has a basic level CRM and some sales tracking tools. Technology company built on established, they didn't reinvent the wheel. They just built a better machine to sell it. And they believed it started with the culture. And what these guys did is they put in videos. You should see the welcome board when new employees showed up. They had massive welcome videos introducing. They had many interviews of new people going in their lunchroom so you could get to know the new hires. There was Nerf gun wars every single Friday. There was the massive gong in the corner and they'd whack it when they got a sales quota. Like you're talking about the kind of almost like that frat party workplace in a way. They had when they were kind of at their peak, which was about 1,200 employees, they had their own leagues for co-ed flag football teams, ultimate frisbee competitions. Like they had this dynamic of life and workplace completely intertwined. Now here's why this is interesting. They put all this out there as part of their applications. They put in videos of them out playing flag football. They'd put them going to bowling alleys and going to Topgolf, and then the gongs in the corner. But they were traditionally only hiring for a customer service phone rep. Talk about people caring more about the social aspect than the actual function. This is essentially nothing more than a $20 an hour call center. That's all they were. They were taking phone orders and troubleshooting people. You have big mega corporations in the same vicinity that American Express is down the street, and they could not recruit people. They've got great benefits packages. They've been around for decades. And Amex is now competing against Nextiva for hiring. Can you guys see where I'm going with this? They invested so much into their culture, they knew that the social and emotional driver was what was going to get people there and retain them. They had less than a 9% retention at their company for entry-level call center jobs. It's unheard of. 80% is the average attrition in a call center industry. They were under 10. Do you think they could do more with less at that point? Absolutely. Because these people started recruiting their friends. They stopped paying for any ads. Their people were bringing in the next workforce. Now, this may or may not sound practical where you guys are at, so we're going to talk through how you can do this. But what I want to tell you is a micro story is my mother, who's an empty nester, she worked when I was in school on nights and weekends at JCPenney Catalog. She took phone orders. That's what she did. So when we all moved out of the house, guess what she thought she wanted to do for some employment to pass some time? Oh, I want to go work at a call center again. Because I did that before, it's what I'm comfortable with. Now, if she had worked here, knowing my mother, who's a bookworm and very quiet, do you think she would have loved this culture? No. You think she would have stuck around? Think she would have joined the co-ed flag football team? She would have hated it. She probably wanted to just go to the break room and read her new novel that she got, and there's a gong going off in the background behind her. Or she's trying to, serve the customer, and there's Nerf bullets going across her head. But she like this? No. So by showcasing the culture, it did two things. It attracted more of what they wanted, but it protected them from getting the wrong candidate in the door as well. Showcasing your culture can have two massive kind of polarizing effects. So we're going to talk through that just a little bit. First step into starting to build a program like this and build the base is we've got to build the engine. We've got to be able to track. We've got to be able to report. We've got to be able to understand the numbers. I'd assume a lot of you, going back to the very first slide of this presentation, are more reactive. We're not tracking for trends. We don't know what our time to fill report looks like. A lot of my customers can tell you with a degree of within a day, it's going to take me 23 and a half days to fill this role. So I know if somebody walks off the job today, I know exactly how much time I have to cover until I statistically get somebody in the door. We've got to get back to a smarter way of hiring to understand how we can automate and expedite that process. This is kind of the process that we can implement. We want to focus on attracting the right candidates, evaluating the candidates. Obviously, we want to hire, but we've got to review the process. We've got to review the hire. We've got to know within 30 days, was that the right fit? Was that the wrong decision or the right decision? And what can we do to improve that process? These are strategic conversations that have to be had inside your organization. And I would assume 90% of you, if not more, never have these conversations, especially the last two. Reviewing our process and what can we do to improve it. Simple questions to ask ourselves that might be getting missed. This is one thing that you guys can take back to understand a little bit more, is the timing of hiring is shifting a lot. This I'm going to play hard to get approach is not going to work with you as a company. What's fascinating is this is by ZipRecruiter, is that 64% of all candidates accepted the very first offer they received. That's crazy. Do you know how many times, and this is me, I have problems with hiring too, like everyone. How many times I've called somebody for an interview, I'm like, hey, I just got your resume last Thursday, really impressed, would love to invite you in for an interview. Like, I just accepted a job yesterday. I'm like, you just, 3 business days ago, you applied to this job. You're not even willing to take an interview. That blows my mind. They just want to accept the job. But this is where you guys are hiring the most right now, is this kind of under 30 entry-level role. 84% and 74%. That's wild. So speed to hire is absolutely critical. If you find that A player, this is not I got a few more interviews I need to do. You better jump on it quick, because chances are 84% of the time, the first offer that person gets is the job that they're accepting. Kind of crazy to think about, huh? They're not weighing options. It's all about speed. So let's talk about speed to the A player, because how important it is. This is kind of some HR metrics around the power of A players, and this is based on an enormous amount of studies that show kind of productivity value of your top performers versus middle performers versus your lower quadrant of people. What we see is the top 20% of performers, their productivity of 35 units is over a third of the output of the entire organization. Most companies never have more than 20% of their entire labor force of what they would consider A players. And that's sad to me. It's sad to me that people would accept to hire people that are less than A players or even say B plus players. Sometimes we just feel desperate because we're playing that reactive game of, we're so behind. I've got to get somebody in. I don't care. If you got a pulse and you're willing to say yes, come on in. That frustrates me, because I know that this bottom tier, 15%, they're doing less than 7% of the output. And most organizations right now have more than 50% of their labor force is what they put in their bottom quadrant. The greatest way to drive A players out of your organization is to hire a bunch of C players. Let me say that again. The quickest way to drive A players out of your organization is go fill the gaps with C players. A players don't like playing around with C players because they know they're going to have to do their work for them. They're frustrated that they're giving more. They're getting there earlier. They're staying there later. They're putting their shorter lunch breaks. They're not even taking lunch breaks. And they're getting paid nearly the same rate as these C players who have excuses after excuses after excuses on why I was late, couldn't show up to work today, my hip hurts, they just find a way to have more excuses. Can you see how we quickly get to how much it costs an organization not to hire A players? Here's some ways that we can build kind of sustained cultures. Because I think really what it comes down to is this very abstract phrase called company culture and how we do it. So I'm going to share just a couple quick examples that I've seen companies do. Companies of your size, similar industries. One of my favorite examples is there's a company based in Arizona, and once a quarter, they do a family and friends fish off. And they all meet at this little community lake, man-made lake, and they meet there at 6 o'clock. They bring out some Traegers and some portable barbecues, and they have some meat and potato chips, and there's just kind of thing. And then they bring some prizes. They go to Best Buy and buy a couple of TVs and get some things, and they do a fish off. And people bring their spouses, they bring their kids, and they're all circling around the lake. They turn on music. Everyone can hear the music around the lake. And they're out there fishing to see who can catch the most fish. And they have different categories, kind of like a golf scramble, right? The biggest fish, the smallest fish, the quantity of fish, who caught the first fish, right? And they make it super fun. But my favorite thing about this is it's a recruiting event. They invite their entire pipeline of candidates of who they're looking to hire to that event. And they want them to get involved. So they go around there fishing. Like the total cost of this event really is, a few $100. It really isn't that expensive. And they tell me that the quality of hires they get from doing that event once a quarter has beat any consultancy group effort they've ever done. This is a company of about 80 employees, and they're in the home services space. And they have exploded bringing in A players, because A players tend to hang out with other A players. And so their team gets to also invite their friends. Hey, you should come check out my company. You should come join this, right? building team events, but then using that as a recruiting opportunity to bring friends or to also invite your recruiting pipeline is an incredible way for your organization to quickly vet it out. I don't know about you guys, but my wife somehow knows who the A players are. If I bring her to an event and she meets some candidates, she's like, don't hire that guy, he's a creep. Or this guy is a rock star, right? She just knows that I don't. I get too infatuated if they love the D-backs or not. Like, you know, we start talking sports and I'm like, yeah, he's in. I'm dialed in. But the reality is culture means so much more than just pizza on Fridays, soft drinks in the refrigerator. That's just, it's frustrating, right? Is that candidates care so much more than that. It's hard to do. So let's talk about some different ways to hire smart, fast, and human. One of the quickest ways that you guys can grow your hiring process is to leverage organic job postings. So architecting a job posting that showcases kind of an architecture. I've got some free templates I'm actually going to give you guys here in a second. We've got to build job postings that talk about that functional, social, and emotional angle. So let's open it up real quick. What are some phrases or things you think you could put in the initial job posting that would speak to the social dynamic of their kind of intrigue to get a candidate in? What do you guys think?
We offer work balance.
We offer work balance. Let's go deeper. What does that mean though? Define it in the job posting.
40 hours or less, and you'll have 2 days off a week, 7-2.
2 consecutive days off per week, never work more than 40 hours. That's our commitment.
Right.
Okay, I like that. What else? I heard something else. Yes.
This sales position offers you an opportunity to serve the community by helping them with reliable transportation.
Yes, exactly. How do we make it more you specific so that it's not like you and your company? What could we think about what's unique to you versus the 1,000 other dealerships?
Do you have a passion for helping others?
I like the question. It kind of gets them drawn in.
Do you have a passion to serve others? Do you have a passion to help people bridge the gap and move from one level to another? So I think that kind of taps into their social well-being and then their place in their community. And then another thing you had just mentioned, I know you haven't dug into it, but lay out the architecture. How does a salesperson move from salesperson, sales management, finance, and so forth?
Yes.
And build out that architecture in your job description or in your ad placement.
I love that. That is such a great insight. That's actually on our job description tips recommendation. Is usually you have these buckets, these quadrants. You have your opening introduction of a job posting. You've got your role and responsibilities, right? Your bullet points of what you're going to do for me. Here's the responsibilities. Here's our job requirements. Must have 3 years experience, high school diploma, right? Those are what's required. And that's where most companies stop. What I like to do is add in a bucket right under this, our commitment to your growth. Bullet point number 1, monthly trainings on financial well-being. Leadership track. We work with you on understanding your desire to become a leader and put you into our internal leadership training program. Number 3, our commitment to grow your career every single year with annual performance reviews and raises, right? We're outlining specifically what their growth pattern could look like. And then the last bucket that most people miss is our committed hiring process. And then you talk about, we review resumes for 14 days. We do initial phone screen interviews, in-person interviews, job offer. Our commitment hiring is no longer than 30 days. You apply with us, you're either going to have a job with us or you're not. But we're going to get to the bottom line. They love that transparency. So what else can we put in job postings that kind of speak to those emotional drivers? What do you guys think? Yeah.
Well, I post that the interviews are all digital.
All digital.
Yeah, we don't make people drive to us. This way we're saving them money and time, and they can do the interview in their home just using Google Meets.
Can I ask you a question? Can I just put some pressure back on you for a second? Okay. Do you think that aligns with A players or C players?
All players.
All players?
Yeah, because I have to, when I'm skimming through people, and first of all, when you're sitting with interviews, 9 times out of 10 people just don't show. You set them up for an interview, and that's on my side. Some people don't show. So if I keep waiting on them and set up time for them to come over, I'm increasing the chances of them not showing, whether they're A players or not.
So is that for the first round or is it all rounds?
All rounds.
All rounds,
So,
okay.
Yeah. So, because if they cannot convince me, I can see them through the camera, and they cannot convince me that they're, have the energy and the effort to do the work.
Yeah.
They're not going to convince me in person.
Got it. I think that's a phenomenal first round experience, is to do a video interview. Google Meet is free. You don't have to even sign up for Zoom or Teams or anything else. Is just jump on a quick Google Meet. And if they don't have a computer, chances are they've got their smartphone. They can do a quick in-person or video interview. But I would challenge you to consider taking your pool of who you like there and making them come to do the in-person.
Well, when they come in for the after we do everything, when they come in for the hiring paperwork, this is when we have like a meet and greet and see what's going on.
Here's what we're seeing about this generation. Everything is fantastic when we're filling out our paperwork. Everything's great, right? We're in that honeymoon stage. But chances are there's going to be a speed bump really soon, within the first 5 working days. There's going to be something like, I didn't get as much lunchtime as I wanted. I was asked to go clean a car that wasn't really on my section. There's going to be something, there's going to be that speed bump. Chances are, if we don't have that in-person rapport built, we only have a digital rapport built, it's easier for me to go stage left and walk out of the business and go somewhere else. I want emotional connectivity so that I build a little bit of a chain of strength, so that when they hit their first speed bump, their second speed bump, and 90 days later there's a big speed bump, because it's going to happen, they don't question my loyalty to them because we took an hour to build that emotional connection. That's what we have seen to help companies retain their employees just a little bit longer. I want them to feel some sense of loyalty back. I like the idea on a first round interview, even a second round interview, is to do those quick, not make them feel like they have to drive in. It saves you time too. That way if they no-show, it's not really that big of a deal, right? You can just get on with your day. Great feedback. Anything else to put in job postings to speak to the social? That's the one that's the hardest thing for people. My social emotional driver. And just a reminder, that's how I think I'm going to be perceived by others by accepting this job.
Changed up some job titles to try to entice people. I mean, if you say car washer, lot jockey, it doesn't appeal too much to any generation, especially the young generation.
Yeah.
We have a reconditioning specialist. A lot of times we have to explain that to them, but there we have the reconditioning in 2 different. We have mechanical reconditioning, and then we have appearance reconditioning. And when we say, we have an opening appearance reconditioning, it allows us to elaborate what that is. We don't want any surprises. I like comers and stayers. I don't like comers and goers.
Yeah.
So I'd rather not hire. I'd still rather have that spot empty.
Yep.
Than to have somebody that takes an awful lot of training time.
The false start.
False start.
Yep. Yeah. So a couple of ideas that I've kind of come up with, and I've heard in other rooms that I've spoken at, is how do we add more social driver to the job posting to get them to feel like, yes, I could be perceived great by my peers and by my friends and family. Talk about what they're going to get from an apparel standpoint. It sounds ridiculous, But even in the job postings, all new hires, we fit them with 4 company polos, 2 hats, and a keychain. I don't know what it is in your world. Talk about what you're going to give them. Just, it's simple. Talk about, we're going to feature you in this. Or we would encourage you to be highlighted in our leadership fast track. Or our commitment, coming back to the comment from the gal in the back, was their commitment back to the community. By becoming a new member, we're going to have you sit in the local chamber of commerce, and we're going to have you give back to the community and represent our brand. Like, find ways for them to get involved in the organization outside of just the functions of the job. Something that helps them get perceived as bigger than a car washer, bigger than I'm just standing on the lot waiting for someone to show up for some car sales. How do we get them to perceive that I've got some sort of leadership fast track, whatever it is? We got to speak to that social driver. Here's a QR code. At this point, I'm happy to open it up for some questions from you guys about recommendations, hiring processes. We see, I don't know, close to 30,000, 40,000 job postings a month go through our system. And I can tell you pretty quickly what works and what doesn't work, but I'm happy to answer your guys' specific questions for your needs.
So this is maybe a question for you or someone more experienced in the room. What's your recommendation, at least in our industry, to hire somebody with prior automotive experience versus somebody with some kind of decent experience and, A player, and then teaching them from the ground up and kind of showing them how you want things done in your organization versus how they used to do it at other dealerships and all their good or bad habits? Do you have any advice on that?
Yeah, I actually have a huge topic on this, and I'm going to summarize it in about 30 seconds here. The question is should we hire somebody with experience and train them up versus hire someone with previous experience? And it really comes back to the role. You've got to ask yourself, could I train this position in less than 40 hours of work time to accomplish and to become an A player? 40 hours. If the answer is more, I want to find someone in the industry that has some starting point of experience. If the answer is 40 hours or less, you don't care about experience in the industry. You focus on their passion, their professionalism, who they are as a person, their character scores. That's kind of my golden nugget right out the gate. There's a lot of like mechanical experience, some of those roles, you can't train that up.
You're talking about like sales.
But yes, but you got to be serious. Could I put a training program together where I sat down with someone for 5 days, 8 hours a day, and by the second week, they could execute on those tasks? That should be your clue. Does that help? So I have companies with 5 employees. They implement a social media framework about their company, their commitment, their involvement in the community, their commitment, and they're attracting A players left and right. Transparency is key here. Transparency in the job posting, social media, tell your company's story. It's going to make a world of difference to attracting the right person. Anyways, thank you guys so much for your time. It was my pleasure to be here. Wish you guys nothing but the best. Feel free to connect with me out in the hallway if you have any more other questions. I'm happy to answer them. Thanks, guys.